Welcome back. How can we support inmates in prison and as they integrate back into society? We are joined by two guests today who will help us shed light on this. Imam Habeeb Alli is a chaplain with Correctional Service Canada working in 4 federal institutions. He hosted One Love 150, a fundraising gala that awards diversity chaplains and former inmates who have taken positive steps in their lives. We will also be joined by Rukiyo Omar, who was recently awarded the Laila Ali Education and Community Service Award for founding Huddle, a support group for parents raising kids in a fast-paced world. Imam Habeeb, Rukiyo, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me again here. It's been a while.
Anytime. So Imam Habeeb, I want to start off with you. So today we're talking about diversity prison chaplaincy. How is that different than regular chaplaincy or doing other prison chaplaincies?
Well, many years ago, it was recognized in Canada through the interfaith and multi-faith and multiculturalism of Canada that there's a lack of diversity chaplaincy. So there was an established committee, and out of that committee, almost 30 plus denominations were invited to provide service. And out of that, it has evolved where we have Hindu chaplains and Sikh chaplains and Rastafarian chaplains and Jewish chaplains and different Christian denomination chaplains, and of course Muslim chaplains.
So having chaplains from different faith groups together under the umbrella of diversity prison chaplaincy.
Yeah, it is, and that is out of the concern that in Canada we have a concept or a policy ingrained within most institutions called reasonable accommodation. Mm-hmm. So it's the Canadian right of the inmate that they should be accommodated reasonably once there's no serious harm or difficulty in accommodating their religious rights.
Based on meeting their own religious rights?
Yeah, their own religious rights, yes.
Okay. And I know recently you had an event called One Love 150 that focused on fundraising for diversity chaplaincy. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yes, a few years ago when the previous government had aired out and it was used in the news, they will cut out chaplaincy that is based upon diversity. So
in prisons?
In the federal prison.
Mm-hmm.
So we started the One Love Gala to recognize and to create awareness, and we had petitions written to the government and interfaith leaders and inmates, and everyone came together and rallied around the point of that we cannot just do away with a Muslim chaplain or a Sikh chaplain or a Hindu chaplain. So thank goodness that has continued, and we've continued to serve the community and inmates who are within this institution and those who are leaving as well. So thank goodness. And out of that, for the last 5 years, we have made that gala one to recognize chaplains, to recognize the inmates, to recognize people doing awesome work. And it has become a multi-faith, interfaith kind of a Canadian celebration. This year, particularly, I've added the 150th anniversary of Canada.
Okay,
so I've named it 150, 150th. Again, to recognize that Canada has a unique contribution to chaplaincy in the world. I've spoken at, there's an international chaplaincy conference that happens every few years. And I happened to be on one of those a few years ago that was held in Toronto, and it was so reassuring to hear people from across the world saying Canada's chaplaincy is unique and it is really providing an amazing service to diverse inmates. And we have to continue to cherish that and grow up on it and deal with some of the issues that may be affecting that, yeah.
So Rukiyo, I want to bring you into the conversation. I know you recently won an award at the One Love Gala for your work within the field of social justice as a single mom. So tell me a little bit about the work that you do related to that.
Well, thank you for having me here. I work with the community and just started a small initiative called Huddle. And a lot of the principles that surround my small support group is really a lot of the principles that are formed from chaplaincy and being introduced to chaplaincy and what they do.
So how does that work feed into the work that Imam Habeeb does within the realm of prison chaplaincy?
Oh, well, it kind of fits into all types of angles. I mean, I was introduced to Imam Habeeb through chaplaincy, and the work that he does with the inmates itself, I found absolutely amazing and comforting to have somebody actually address this one sector that I feel like goes really unknown. Also, just after the integrating into society, I feel like most of these people need the support, not just the inside the prisons, but also in the communities. So I work with parents, and technically it's simply just to kind of educate parents about things like that chaplaincies do, also to help them form better communications with their children.
These are you work with parents whose kids are incarcerated?
Well, a little bit of both. Hopefully our goal is to prevent that incarceration part, but really it's parents helping parents, and it's just a kind of like, it's a small support group that is based in different communities throughout Toronto, and it's a small initiative. We're just starting off right now, but the aim is to simply kind of have a little bit more awareness as to the things that I have learned and personally seen with chaplaincy and what they do.
So Imam Habeeb, picking off of what Rukiyo just said, what kind of work have you done, and how are your relationships been fostered with prison inmates that you've worked with?
Well, it's supposed to be, chaplaincy is supposed to be a holistic approach to recovery and reintegration and keeping people continually entering society. So just as we walk with them in the prison system, showing compassion and listening to them and providing a reasonable accommodation for whatever religious, educational, or rituals that they may require, the same thing is necessary. And in the system, we have always had something called community chaplaincy. So in the halfway houses and even in the community, faith-based organizations have always provided that. Unfortunately, that it's not much of a service available, but we still try. And that's why my appeal is for volunteerism. My appeal is that, especially in the Muslim community, you have to stand up. You have to come on board with your resources, with yourselves, with your love, with your prayers, with your putting aside your stigma and your discrimination and saying, I want to help someone and make a difference. The fact is that that is someone's child.
Yeah.
It could be yours. That is someone's neighbor. That it could be yours. That's someone's relative. That's someone's husband or wife. It could be yours. So that's what my appeal is.
And Rukiyo, I know you are really active in that volunteering field. So I want to, Imam Habeeb, you brought up a good point about stigma, which I think is very prominent in our community, Muslim and otherwise. So I want to ask you about your experience when you started volunteering. How did you get over the first step and the stigma?
Well, it's absolutely true that you say the stigma is real in all communities, right? But I feel like I was surprised to see that my own community does the most of that whole stigma related to what it's really like. What made me get over that stigma and actually having my own views is actually reaching out to these people and seeing how real they were, how intelligent they were, or just absolutely funny they were, right? And just their humanness is what got me over it. So it has to be something that I can't tell you. You kind of have to just experience it yourself and take the first step to actually just saying, hi, how are you?
And what kinds of conversations have you had with some of these, well, I understand you work specifically with women, right, in federal prisons. So what are some of the conversations that you've had? And is it specific to the Muslim prison inmates, or does it go beyond the Muslim community that you work with?
No, well, my work was very limited. This work that I'm pursuing in my life right now is not something that I pursued, it pursued me. Just because I was a Muslim young girl, they came to me with questions, right? And
They meaning other non-Muslims?
Other non-Muslims in particular, and I was just amazed at the amount of questions that were coming from non-Muslims and some Muslims actually. And
what were some of the questions? What were they asking you?
Some of the questions were as simple as, why do you pray 5 times a day? Or 2 people that I will never forget is they wanted to know how to read the Fatiha, and they were Muslim.
That's one of the chapters in the Quran, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And I don't know if they forgot how to read it or they've never learned, but that wasn't my issue. I said, okay, you want to learn? We can learn. Let's sit down and start with the first ayah, the first line, and that's just went on from there. And before you knew it, other people were asking like, why wear the hijab? Or is it true if I become Muslim, all my sins will be forgiven and I can do whatever I want. And I'm like, well, yeah, your sins will be forgiven, but doing whatever you want, that's a different story. And, you know, just kind of engaging in a conversation about simple, very, like, I personally thought everybody knew.
And how did Imam Habeeb's, his own work in the prison system, how did he support you as you were beginning to volunteer as well within the prison systems?
He was actually, Imam Habeeb was actually a breath of fresh air, because you get, most people are hesitant to talk to when you hear an imam. They have their own kind of
Views?
yeah, yeah, to say the least. But some girls actually told me, yeah, there's this cool, quote and unquote, imam that we talk to about things. You need to meet him, and they're the ones who introduced me to him. But it was his approach to things. He didn't have a file. He wasn't there for a purpose other than just to be with the person and just to answer their questions or just to have a simple conversation. It wasn't a means of strict like most people come across.
As we wrap up, what advice do both of you have, and we'll go to each of you individually, about things that our broader community can do to support our brothers and sisters in prisons?
Pretty much just show interest. Definitely interest to volunteer. Participation in these things is very key for both the inmates and themselves. You will get a simple, it's therapeutic, you know? And I mean, I feel like it's a win-win situation. So just reaching out and seeing the steps, they're very simple, they're very easy. It's not as complicated as it may seem. And yeah, just kind of just reaching out and showing interest.
Imam Habeeb, what about from your end?
Well, I just want to show that the brothers, they know where they are. The brothers who are going to be watching the show, they know where they are. I just want to show them out. Assalamu alaikum. And thank Aisha, thank the wonderful team here, Let the Quran Speak. You have been a fixture, a beautiful solace and comfort in the hearts of men and women who are incarcerated across the country, as well as we serve in the private institutions. And the little bit that we fundraised from the gala over the years, which is not much, it helps to buy Islamic items. And I'll give you an example to that. We did a letter writing campaign last year from out of the prisons across Canada, 300 plus masjids. Very few responded. The Dawah Center here that I'm sitting here today is one of them that responded. They've always been kind and generous. So I want to thank Dr. Shabir Ali, I want to thank Brother Fazal and the beautiful team, Brother Ilyas and everyone else for being supportive of chaplaincy. Again, you know, volunteer, get in touch with us, send Islamic items, get in touch with us, talk to someone today, do not judge people. Know that this is Canada, and this 150th anniversary we're celebrating, it means another 150 years from now, Canada must be the paragon and the #1 in the world when it comes to treating inmates with compassion and respect.
It's very humbling for you to say that. Thank you so much, Imam Habeeb, and you know, inshallah, I hope if you do a letter campaign in the future, you let us know so we can share awareness about that too, and also give back. So thank you both for coming on to the show and educating me personally as well about this important topic. So thanks again.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hey YouTube, we hope you benefited from this video. If you liked it, or if you didn't, let us know in the comments below. And if you're interested in learning more, check out some of our other videos. And don't forget to subscribe so you can get new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.